In this lesson, we'll learn how to handle errors when working with the request library. So in this example, we are using the URL endpoint that returns the 404 status code, which stands for the resource is not found. So if we'll run the code as is, we'll see the 404 result, and we can also notice that no data is present. But rather than letting our program just to terminate, we can add some logic to handle this type of error. And we can do that with the help of the HTTP error class from the requests library. So at the top of our file, below the requests main import, we write from requests import HTTP error. We also want to notify the requests library that we want to raise the exception when this error will occur. So the request library won't know that this 404 code is the code that it needs to raise an exception for. So we'll need to use the raise for status method to explicitly imply this behavior. So we type res.raise for status. And now we need to wrap the code that is expected to cause this error in the try except error handling block. So try is our happy path, if you'd like. So this is, we are trying to run this code, and if no errors will emerge, then it will run as is. So that except block is where we handle any error that may occur instead of just tripping the whole program. So we'll use the print statement in the except part to print the error locally. And when we run the code, we see the error is printed to the console. Let's take a look at another type of error, which is the server timeout error or the request timeout error. To experience this type of error, we'll need to add another URL endpoint. So the endpoint we're going to be using allows us to set a custom delay. So in this case, we are setting it up to 5 seconds. We also need to import the timeout class, which will allow us to specify another parameter for our get request, which is a timeout. And we'll set it up equal to 2 seconds. This will allow us to make sure our get request will time out, or in other words, sees the request earlier than the response from the URL endpoint will follow. And of course, we'll need to add extra code block to the error handler in the form of an additional except block. This time, when the timeout error will occur, it will trigger the except timeout block and will print a string related to this particular error. And now when we run the code, the response will not follow for 5 seconds and our request will time out in 2 seconds. And what we'll see is the timeout error nicely handled by the code we specified in our function. Of course, we can handle many more types of errors, and I encourage you to explore them.